Out of the Resident Evil franchise's many playable protagonists over the years, very few have reached the levels of popularity that Leon S. Kennedy has enjoyed consistently. He may not have been a part of the OG gang that kicked the series off in its very first installment, but since his introduction in Resident Evil 2, he has embedded himself into the fabric of the series, to the extent that he may even be more popular a character than Chris Redfield, who in the eyes of Capcom at least is the official series protagonist. Leon will once again be returning to the spotlight very soon with the highly anticipated remake of Resident Evil 4. But if you have a hankering to dive into his story through the course of the series and refresh your memory on everything that's happened before you jump into the remake, we've got you covered. Here, we'll be covering the entire story of Leon S. Kennedy in the Resident Evil games, focusing on 3 games that he's been a playable protagonist in. Resident Evil 2, for which we'll be focusing on the remake instead of the original, Resident Evil 4, and, unfortunately, Resident Evil 6. We first meet Leon in Resident Evil 2 in the year 1998. Though subsequent Resident Evil installments go on to turn him into something of an action hero, when he's first introduced, he's much more of a fresh-faced rookie, having recently joined the Raccoon City Police Force. Leon is on his way to the RPD building to report for his very first shift as a cop, though him starting his new job aligns with the worst possible circumstances. Umbrella Corporation's clandestine activities have come back to bite not only the company itself, but all of Raccoon City as a whole. The city is caught in the grips of an outbreak of the T-virus, turning most of its population into undead zombies with little to no survivors. As Leon enters Raccoon City, he runs into Claire Redfield, who, oblivious to what's going on, has come to the city to find her brother, STARS agent Chris Redfield, which of course means both Leon and Claire have the RPD building as a common destination. After surviving an attack by a horde of zombies, the two drive into the city and make their way towards the building. Though an unfortunate accident on the way ends up promptly separating them again. With more zombies bearing down on them, the two decide to leave quickly and head to the RPD building on their own, hoping to meet back up if they can. Upon reaching the RPD, Leon finds the building completely deserted, with no one but the injured cop Marvin Branagh to greet him. Those survivors from the city had initially flocked to the building and hoped for it to serve as the last line of defense. It wasn't long before the T-virus managed to find its way inside as well, which means there are virtually no other survivors left, while the building itself is crawling with zombies. Inconveniently enough, the way out is not going to be easy to find. The RPD building once used to be a museum and hides many secrets, and the only way out that is currently safe is through a secret passageway that can only be opened up through a long and elaborate puzzle. With Marvin Branagh being injured, he actually succumbs to his zombie bite and dies not long afterward. It falls to Leon to unlock the passageway, which entails traversing the zombie-infested station and unlocking its many mysteries and secrets. That, as you can imagine, proves to be a long and harrowing quest. With Claire off on her own mission, her path converges with Leon very briefly here and there, but as he's working his way through the station, he faces no shortage of dangers. Zombies and lickers are obviously a formidable threat as it is, but the real threat is the constant presence of Mr. X, a brute of a tyrant who stalks him throughout the halls of RPD. While Leon is going about his business in the station, someone else he runs into is Ada Wong, a woman who claims to be an FBI agent investigating Umbrella Corporation and its illicit activities, whom Leon quickly agrees to help. Together, Leon and Ada manage to make their way out of the RPD, with the destination being Nest, a secret underground Umbrella lab where Ada hopes to retrieve a sample of the G-virus, made by one of the corporation's leading scientists, William Birkin. After a brief trek throughout the city, which also sees them crossing paths with gunsmith Robert Kendo and his infected daughter, Leon and Ada have to brave the dangers of Raccoon City's sewers, before ultimately getting aboard a cable car that takes them directly to Nest. Here, things come to a head, but we're going to summarize it as succinctly as possible. Claire, who has also managed to find her way to Nest, goes about retrieving the G-virus vaccine, while Leon is able to get his hands on a sample of the virus for Ada. However, it's also revealed that she's been lying about her identity the whole time. Far from an FBI agent, Ada Wong is actually a mercenary who intends to sell the sample to the highest bidder. Before Leon can really confront her about it though, an attack by William Birkin, who's been fully mutated into a hideous monstrosity by his own virus, ends up knocking her and the sample into a deep abyss, seemingly to death. Leon deals with William, but Nest is set to self-destruct, as is traditional for most Resident Evil endings. He's contacted by Claire, who tells him to quickly rendezvous with her at a nearby train so they can escape together. On the way, Leon is attacked by Mr. X once again, who has mutated into a super tyrant by now, and though the fight is a tough one, he is able to kill the walking bioweapon, thanks in part to a little assistance from Ada, who is revealed to be alive, but is, of course, still very much charting her own path. RE2 ends with Leon and Claire managing to escape while Ness blows up behind them, with the pair vowing to take down Umbrella no matter what the cost. Of course, the next time we meet Leon again is in Resident Evil 4, and Umbrella has already been taken down by that time. In fact, the company having been dismantled by the authorities isn't the only major thing that's happened in the 6 years that separate the events of RE2 and RE4. Leon is no longer a rookie cop. In fact, he isn't even a cop. He is now a bona fide US government agent, and is in fact working directly for the President of the United States. And his next mission is going to be a very complicated one. The President's daughter, Ashley Graham, has been kidnapped by a mysterious cult known as Los Illuminados, who have taken her to a remote village somewhere in or around Spain. Given the sensitivity of the matter and the threat hanging over Ashley, it is decided that the best course of action is to send Leon in alone so that he can quickly find and rescue her. But of course, things don't go to plan. That wouldn't make for a very interesting game, now would it? Quickly, upon reaching the village, Leon realizes that he's found himself in the midst of another bioweapon crisis. The villagers have been infected by a mind-controlling parasite known as Las Plagas, which means Leon's job just became significantly more complicated. Not long after reaching the village, before he can even get started on his search for Ashley, Leon is forced to stave off several fierce attacks from the Plagas-infected population, and though he holds his own very well for a while, he is soon overwhelmed and taken captive. In captivity, Leon is injected with the Plagas parasite, which means his mission now has even more urgency attached to it. Not only does he have to find and rescue Ashley, he also has to do it before the parasite takes over, and ideally he has to find a way to stop that from happening. Meanwhile, in captivity, he also meets a fellow prisoner, a man named Luis Serra, who was once a researcher for the Los Illuminados but became disillusioned with their leader, Osmond Sadler, and his methods. With Luis's help, Leon is able to escape, though the two go their separate ways, with Luis going off to find a way to slow Leon's infection, as well as a Plaga sample that Leon can take back with him to the United States, and Leon, of course, setting off to find Ashley again. And sure enough, he does find her not long afterward, though he learns that the situation is even worse than he thought. Quickly after meeting up with Ashley, Leon realizes that she too has been infected with Las Plagas. As it turns out, Los Illuminados' leader, the aforementioned Sadler, has grand ambitions of essentially taking over the world, and he intends to use Ashley as a vector for Las Plagas. His plan is to send her back to the United States so that she in turn infects her father, the president, with the parasite, which in turn would give Sadler control over the subjugated mind and all of his actions. For now, however, Leon has Ashley with him, and his plan is to get aboard a rescue chopper being sent in for him and get the hell out of this village. That chopper, however, is shot down, and Leon and Ashley are forced to take refuge. Eventually, Leon and Ashley cross paths with Luis Serra once again, who, as it turns out, has managed to get his hands on a Plaga sample, as well as pills that will help slow the pair's infection. Before he can hand them over, however, they are caught in a surprise attack by Sadler, who kills Luis, grabs the samples and Ashley, and flees to a nearby island where the Los Illuminados have set up a heavily defended military and research base. And so, with the island as his destination, Leon makes his way squaring off against Salazar and finally killing him. There are, of course, a couple of rather interesting personalities that Leon crosses paths with in Resident Evil 4. The series' ever-present villain, Albert Wesker, has always had long-standing ambitions of completing the bioweapon Pokédex, so to speak. And as you might imagine, as part of his plans to turn himself into a walking slushy of deadly viruses and take over the world, he has his eyes set on Las Plagas. To get his hands on a sample of the parasite, Wesker has sent in a couple of agents working for him, one of whom, it turns out, is none other than Ada, who obviously still loves double-crossing people and messing with Leon's head. Meanwhile, an agent loyal to Albert Wesker who locks horns with Leon on the island is Jack Krauser, a man who once used to be an ally of Leon's but has now very firmly turned into a dangerous, unrelenting enemy. Leon and Krauser take each other on in the mother of all knife fights, and an absolute nightmare for anyone who dislikes QTEs, but Leon is able to overcome and defeat his foe, with a little bit of long-range sniping assistance from Ada. Beyond that, the island serves as RE4's final act, so once again, let's summarize this quickly. Once again, Leon finds Ashley, and with the help of notes left behind by Luis, he's able to use his specialized device to extract the Las Plagas parasite out of himself and Ashley. Following that, as you'd expect, Leon takes on Sadler in a dramatic final boss fight, during which Sadler turns into something right out of your worst nightmare. Once again, with a little bit of assistance from Ada, Leon is able to defeat and kill Sadler. He goes over to his corpse to retrieve a Las Plagas sample, but that's beyond the limits of how much Ada is willing to help him. She still fully intends to secure the sample and take it with her, and holding Leon and Ashley at gunpoint, that's exactly what she does. She then gets on a chopper sent by a shadowy organization she, Krauser, and Wesker all work for, leaving behind detonation charges set all over the island that are now counting down. Something else she leaves, however, is the key to a jet ski that Leon and Ashley are able to use to finally escape, while the island, in true Resident Evil fashion, explodes behind them. And now we come to Resident Evil 6, set nearly a decade later in 2013. Sadly enough, RE6's story is something of a mess, to put it extremely mildly. Leon is just one of several main characters in the game's cast, which also includes the likes of Ada, Chris, Sherry Birkin, and many others, including Jake Muller, Albert Wesker's illegitimate son. He's accompanied throughout his part of the story by Secret Service agent Helena Harper, and their story intersects with the other characters on a number of occasions. There's a number of conspiracies going on all the way to the top of the government, a whole mess of viruses and outbreaks all over the world, and even a clone of Ada Wong running about wreaking havoc. So yeah, as we said, it's a bit of a mess. As such, we're just going to focus on the larger beats, the main details on Leon's story in the game, and that, frankly, doesn't take too long to explain. The story begins with Leon and Helena by the president's side, a different president, who intends to publicly reveal the truth about the Raccoon City incident and lift the lid on all of the shady dealings the government had with Umbrella. Though before he can do that, a bioweapon outbreak ends up infecting him, which in turn forces Leon to shoot him in the head. Later on, in Leon and Helena's campaign, the pair learn that the attack was engineered by Derek Simmons, the US's national security advisor, who made the decision to eliminate the president in the interest of a national security. On top of that, it also turns out that Simmons is the leader of a super powerful shadowy group known as the Family, and has been responsible for orchestrating a number of bioterror attacks throughout the world over the course of several years, including the Raccoon City incident. And why? In a nutshell, so he can continue to grow his wealth and influence, which has been built on the back of all the chaos he sowed over the years. A lot happens between all of this and the end of Leon's campaign in Resident Evil 6. The vast majority of this is either unnecessary or makes no sense, if not both. The end, predictably enough, sees Leon and Helena managing to defeat and kill Simmons, who goes on to get mutated by deadly viruses several times over, including the shape of a T-Rex at one point, while also exposing his activities to the world. Really, the less said about RE6, the better. Either way, that is the full story of Leon S. Kennedy throughout the main Resident Evil installments. The upcoming Resident Evil 4 remake is obviously not going to add a new chapter to this long-running saga, but if past RE remakes are anything to go by, it may end up changing things in some significant ways. What approach the company decides to take remains to be seen, but one way or another, we're more than a little excited to welcome Leon back into the spotlight. Hey, did you know that we at Gaming Bolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.